So, hello and welcome to another edition of Live Calm with Andy. Today we're going to be having a discussion over 3 of the most powerful Zen habits that you can introduce into your daily life in order to achieve a calmer and a happier life. And we will get into that right now in the video. So the first practice we're going to be discussing today is the practice of Izoku. It's the habit essentially of I'm chuckling because it essentially, and for anyone who speaks Japanese, this will not be a surprise, but essentially Izoku translates to mean idleness, evading, avoiding. It's a bit like being a sort of layabout, essentially. But the actual fundamental principle of it really, as it applies to Zen, is more about focusing on only performing one task, only focusing on what is directly in front of you as far as tasks go, and not being drawn into the hubbub and the interaction of modern life. It's about avoiding the mobile phone that's ringing in your pocket. It's about avoiding the text messages and the emails that are lying about waiting to be answered. It's about ignoring to a certain extent the Teams messages or other instant messages or emails at work that are harassing you. And I would add to that until such a time as you are ready to engage with them fundamentally. And so how would one go about in implementing this? Well, essentially, there's a saying within many forms of Buddhism when they talk about sort of meditating, and it's very practical and applicable to mindfulness meditation or yogic meditation as well, which is essentially focus on what you're doing right now. And it says, when you eat, eat. When you sleep, sleep. When you rest, rest. When you play, play. So whenever you're doing whatever you're doing, do that thing. Don't think about, I should also be doing this and this and this. Do what is directly in front of you. And that's not to say that we shouldn't be trying to be productive and to be engaged members of the world. Very, very few of us have the luxury of having the idleness and the time to say that, look, I really would like to, engage with only meditating today, and tomorrow I might engage in some painting and be really mindful about the brush strokes on the page. And the day after that, I might go for a hike and, only focus on every single step I take and the feeling of my boots squelching in the mud on the ground. And I'm sure we would all love to live lives like that, and we can't, unfortunately. But you do need to fundamentally find a way to disengage from the modern drive to be available 24/7 and to be constantly interrupted by external stimulus. There's a lot of scientific evidence now that shows that it is physiologically stressful to your body to have this happen. Every time you get a new notification on your phone, a buzz on your watch at the same time, it produces a stress response in your body saying, this is an important interruption that I must deal with, and it makes me feel stressed. It prepares me for action, which is essentially what the stress system in the body is doing. You can mitigate this in some ways in your personal life. Obviously, you can choose to turn off notifications from various apps on your phone. Go into your settings and choose which ones are allowed to set notifications. You can simply put your phone onto a silent mode with no vibrations, so that you're only receiving those notifications when you want. You can have a nighttime mode set up on your phone on some models where you're only able to go in and view them if you actively pick up your phone rather than have them interrupting you. During the course of the working day, again, this is less practical, but you can fundamentally, choose to acknowledge when people are looking for you, needing things done, and mark that yes, I acknowledge that someone needs me to do something. I will do it after I've finished the task that I'm on. Or if whatever comes in is more pressing, you can choose to swap tasks, but also mentally mark up that other job that you were originally doing, the other task, whatever it was, as being like on pause in your mind, and physically setting it aside, really, without covering too much old ground about sort of Zen, what it is, how to do it. If you are looking for any of that, the videos are available on my channel before. We have a little bit of content about all of that to get you up to speed with it, but fundamentally, to get to the point of the crux of that, the Zen aspect is that essentially your mind, every time there's a thought, it creates essentially like a ripple effect on top of a flat, calm water. And the more of these interruptions you have, obviously, the more the water is vibrating and shaking. And so your job really is to try and minimize the thoughts that are coming and going, and it's also to not engage with them. So just to acknowledge, yep, that's a thought, that task is on pause in this instance. When you're actively meditating, obviously you just acknowledge that the thought was there, and then you go back to trying to focus on your breathing, or focus on nothing, or focus on slowing the mind, or whatever type of meditating you're doing. But essentially you're reducing the instance of any of this type of interruption. And so that is practice and habit number 1, which is that of Izuku, which is to be focusing only on the task in front of you. Or, if you're in your own time, idleness is also an option. So the second thing that we need to place into practice, the second powerful habit that we have at our disposal, is again something that I'm going to give you a practical action of, but is more of a concept really than an actual habit. So as with the concept of Isuzu, the practice of setting the intention that you're only going to perform the action in front of you. So that's the habit, perform the action in front of you. And the concept is obviously something that's a little bit further behind the game line. So this one, the Zen habit is going to be tidy. Tidy your environment. More specifically, set intention for your environment. So the actual physical action you're going to have to take, and I would recommend, is when you find yourself in a place that is busy. There's too much round about you. You have paper lying everywhere. You maybe have washing on the floor. You have, stuff that's overflowing in your sink. Say to yourself, I am going to spend the next 5 minutes, and please feel free, Apple Watch, Samsung or Galaxy Watch, mobile phone, there's a clock on the wall, whatever. Physically set 5 minutes and say, for the next 5 minutes, I am going to tidy as much as I can and just make it all a little bit neater. And you might not get to the end of all of the things that need tidied, but essentially you will get some done. And actually, you quite often find that if you say, I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes, you actually think, well, do you know what? It would only take me another 5 or another 10 minutes to clear it. I might as well keep going. And that helps to keep the clutter down. So that is the habit. Now the why and the Zen of it is essentially that there is this sort of real concept within Zen that your environment sets the tone for the mind. If your environment is busy, if your environment is cluttered, it's essentially busying and cluttering the mind. And I think often if we think about that, it sounds, maybe a little bit silly to say that, you can not be in a cluttered environment and have a very calm, relaxed approach. Lots of people will say, I don't mind having a little bit of mess around, it doesn't bother me. But essentially, if you have anything lying around that shouldn't be, 9 times out of 10 it's because it's a job that's half finished or a job you're going to have to do later. Recycling waiting to be taken out to the correct waste receptacles, your dishes in the sink, these are all little jobs that you're going to have to do later. And every time you go past them, subconsciously on some level, you go, I need to remember and do that later. And that, in and of itself, is a thought. And as we know, the purpose of Zen is to try and reduce the number of incidences of thought. And every time you have these interruptions, so if you've only got, a small load of dishes in the sink, you may well be right, I can just leave that to get on. But if you have a little pile of dishes in the sink, you've got some dirty clothes on the floor, you've got some clean clothes in the washing basket that are needing folded and tidied away, you've got food that's needing put away back in the cupboards because you've just been prepping a meal, various things, lots of things. These things all add up, and essentially you end up in a position where, from having not a lot to do, you end up where your brain's getting these lots of little impulses again, and it's then becoming overworked. So try and set your environment. Again, setting the environment, there can be other actions off of this. You could choose that, I'm going to do it for not 5 minutes. I have a favourite song that's, 3 minutes and 42 seconds. And I am just going to put this 3 minutes 42 second song, that's my favourite song of all time, and I'm just going to tidy from the start of the song till the end of the song, and whenever it's done, I'll finish whatever's in my hand and everything else can stay where it is. Try not to have it too upbeat or raucous. You are trying to have a relaxed and a sort of level calm, but you might have something that you think, that's a nice relaxed and slow song that I can just listen to and that can keep me going. So that would be principle number 2, is trying to keep calm. It can include all kinds of things as well, so basically anything that's interrupting your mind. When I say cleaning, I've talked a lot about physical clutter. It could also be, smells. So the food waste, the off-cuttings need taken outside and put in the compost or into the waste bin that takes that away, and the smell's annoying you. So it could be that you take the waste bin outside, that is an element of cleaning. It could also be that you spray some nice smelling cleaning sprays or odorizers to make the room smell pleasant and remove that smell, because that smell ultimately is interrupting the calm of your mind. And finally for this, we are moving on to practice number 3, and that is the practice of gratitude. And it is potentially the most potent of all of the practices I'm going to recommend. And a lot of Zen is based around sort of structuring it and forcing it into your day, forcing little elements in. Meditation, obviously everyone says it's the classic line, you should wake up and do it immediately. Set that as your intention for the day, and then it's about enduring and trying to carry that out and lengthen over the day. This practice is best done right before bed. Essentially, you can do it as you're lying in bed waiting to fall asleep, you can do it as you're brushing your teeth at night, you can do it as you're washing your face at night getting ready to go to bed. But essentially, you are going to do one thing and one thing only, and that is you are going to think of 3 things that have happened during the day, and you are going to say, I am grateful for this because, and you're going to say the reason why you're grateful for it. And the reason you're going to do this is essentially, and as much as Zen is about, reducing thought, I think there's a misconception, at least from my understanding, that Zen is about having no thought ever, and that's obviously silly. We're not ever going to have no thought. It's about reducing the incidence of unhelpful thought. It's about reducing the incidence of unnecessary thought. It's about reducing the incidence of thought that's not related to what we're currently doing. And that again comes back to the first principle of Isaku, which is basically you are going to be doing whatever is directly in front of you. And what you will find is that if you really drill down and focus on this, you have less interaction and less sort of stickiness of the interrupting negative thoughts of, oh God, I've got this to do, God, I've got that to do, oh, I can never keep up with this is all too much, and it slows down to the point where you just deal with what is directly in front of you. And that's great because we're reducing, if you think about your brain as basically being like a piggy bank, and you every day you put £1 into the piggy bank, and you save up, and eventually the piggy bank's full, and you open it and you've got the contents that's in there. Now everyone, if they're putting money into the piggy bank, is going to want to get all of this money out, because the money is a positive thing subjectively in that example. But the brain is very much the same thing. If you're constantly feeding the brain with negative stimulus repeatedly, it is going to lead to, over time, your brain being wired to deal with negativity. And it's as simple as that. And if you are forcing positivity, so you're forcing positivity into your brain, which is very often the immediate reaction, right? We don't want negativity, that's to be cut off. I should just absorb positivity. But ultimately, if you try and force positivity and you're not feeling positive, you fundamentally, internally know that that's not right. You can be neither positive nor negatively dispensed to situations around you. You can be in the middle. The whole point of Zen is that essentially we are trying to spend as much of our time in the middle. We are neither experiencing the world positively or negatively, because ultimately we are just experiencing. And that's kind of the real secret here, is we are just experiencing. But that's not to say that, while things might be positive or negative, we can't be grateful for small things that happen. You can always be grateful for something that happened. And so just by naming these things, and they can be silly things. Today I was grateful that I had washed my favourite shirt. So I was able to wear that today because I like wearing that shirt. And that would be one thing ticked off, and that's absolutely something you can be grateful for. It doesn't mean that, it's the greatest shirt and I've had the greatest day because it's the greatest shirt on me. That doesn't need to be true. It just needs to be that you like the shirt and you were happy this morning when you opened up and went, my favourite shirt is in the drawer. I was grateful for the mailman who delivered something that I'd ordered. Now, did the mailman do anything extra special to do that? No. You'd ordered something, they delivered it. But equally, you were grateful when that arrived and the mailman brought it to you. So you can be grateful to the mailman. And actually, there's a whole lot of deeper stuff, and I'm trying to keep this video concise, but there is fundamentally that then starts to bleed into the oneness and connectedness of all life, that essentially the mailman will never know that you were grateful for his actions in performing his day-to-day job, but it's brought meaning and joy to your life. So you must equally have done something similar for other people by doing your daily job, or by going to the shop and buying something. You have provided money to a shopkeeper. It's only I only bought a chocolate bar, and it was very, very cheap, but it's a little bit of money in his till, and so he's going to be able to, with everyone that's done that today, he's going to be able to feed his family, that kind of thing. We're heading off in a direction I didn't mean to go to. But essentially, that is practice number 3, is to be grateful and to have a gratitude practice about things, no matter how big or how small they are, to try and produce feedback into the brain that is both positive but is not manically positive. It's not hyperactive. It's quiet, gentle, little smile and nod of that was pleasant. So guys, thank you very much for watching today. If you can, obviously, please do like, comment and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. Any interaction you have that allows us to be seen by more people is another opportunity for me to spread my message of positivity, gratitude, and hope that everyone out there who is currently needing to see this message, particularly those that are struggling with their mental health, and equally those who don't need to hear this message yet but may do in the future, get the opportunity to get the tools and experience they need in order to live happier and calmer lives. So any interaction that you do have with this video is a great help. That is all we have for you today. There will hopefully be a new video out within the next 7 days, and we look forward to seeing you then. If you have not quite had enough and you've not had your full fill of everything you were looking for, then of course there are other videos available if you just click on our channel down below and have a little scroll through. And again, any interaction you have with those videos would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you later. Have a very calm rest of your day.